My name is Johnny Wheeler and I teach in the video production department. So currently this semester I'm teaching digital cinema, which is Design 375. I'm teaching two sections of Photo 310, which is Introduction to Cinematographic Lighting. And then I am teaching Photo 330, which is a sort of an entry-level video production course.
Okay, sounds good. What is your background as an artist?
As an artist, so I graduated with a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree from the Milwaukee Institute of Art and Design back in the year 2001. I studied sculpture in attaining that degree, and I actually minored in photography at that time. So my grandfather was a painter, and he taught me when I was very young how to use oil paints to make paintings. That's really what spurred my interest in art in general. I went to art school kind of because of that, based on my painting portfolio, and while in art school I dabbled in a lot of different kinds of artistic fields, video being one of those things, although in those days it was VHS. It was pretty early days when it comes to video production. Later, after I graduated, I worked as a photographer for a long time, and then at the point at which you could use a DSLR camera to shoot really good video, that's kind of when I started making that switch from still photography to video production or moving photography. So artistically, I think that's really, I was kind of affected by exploration, started in painting, but then I moved on to photography through sculpture in so many ways, moved on to video production. And even to this day, I still like to paint and draw and sculpt and make movies, and somehow, in some ways, make those things be one thing, which is, I wouldn't say it's even challenging. It feels really natural. I know a little bit about a lot of things, and maybe not a lot about a few things, little things. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I like to dabble.
Iceland is known for its stunning natural beauty. Can you share a moment when you felt a deep connection between the landscape and your photography, and what message or story did you aim to convey?
I went to Iceland to teach a class, to be sure, but I also went to Iceland to sort of further my own research goals. I've been to other places based on research, like the deserts in Arizona. I've been to Alaska near the Arctic Circle a few times. And to me, I'm always seeking out places that is the most untouched by human hand that I can find in so many ways. And the thing that I have found in all of those different research trips is that there is no place that is not somehow touched by human hands. In Iceland, after seeing a pretty big waterfall, they call it Niagara in a box, a huge waterfall, we jumped back into the van and we drove for 4 hours into what they call the highlands of Iceland. Most of that time is on these, can I swear? The shittiest dirt roads you've ever been on in your life, where like halfway through that, the native Icelandic driver said, he hits the wheel and he says, "Worst roads in Iceland." And it was that bad. And so for 4 hours on this really bad dirt road, we finally stop at a place where you can kind of see a glacier up here, an alpine glacier coming off one of the mountains. You can see another glacier off in the distance. Haven't seen a tree in like 2 days, right? So it's this most isolated, most, I don't know, if you were to think about the least possible influence of human beings, this is it, right? And it took a while even to get there. And so we started, I got my rain gear on because it was kind of raining a little bit like it often does in Iceland. It's pretty windy. I got my camera gear on and I'm walking through this, ungroomed path along a cliffside. And it's like the water is the color of antifreeze, and there's just rocks falling off the side. There's, not a soul to be seen except for me and my class. We stopped for a second underneath an overhang to let some of the rain kind of go away so we could keep going. And I could peek underneath a huge boulder just in front of me, and it was an empty orange juice bottle just sitting underneath, a piece of litter, right? Sitting underneath this enormous boulder out in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the highlands of Iceland. So it kind of proved to me at that point, really there's no place. There's no place left on the planet that tourists somehow haven't ruined in some way. And ironically, I was one of them, right? I'm there. I'm doing that thing. When I saw that bottle, I was myself drinking from a bottle that had water in it, but like here I have plastic in my hand and I'm looking at a thing and saying, oh, that's a shame. And then I'm like holding that same thing that is the problem, right? So it kind of proved that, really there's no place that humans haven't, been or touched or littered in. Yeah.
For the first time in photography's history, we are dealing with AI implemented into the workflow. Do you see a place for AI in photography? If not, how should we deal with it moving forward?
So there's this photographer, Dorothea Lange, who took that very famous picture, I think called Migrant Mother, and it's a black and white picture where she's kind of looking off into the distance. Dorothea Lange often talked about the apparatus of a camera and how we're ultimately tied to the machine, right? So the camera itself is a machine in the same way I think that artificial intelligence is a machine. And maybe as photographers and as videographers, we're a little bit more cognizant of the mechanics or the gear behind what it is that we do, more so than say a painter with a paintbrush and paint, right? We actually have moving parts and we have to plug in our stuff, right? We already kind of understand how that works. We already have been using cameras that have AI built in them to say track faces or eyes. I think that using AI is something that might come more naturally to those of us who are used to working with that equipment and that gear. Knowing that our art form is already tied to a machine might make it for us that we're less, scared of it. We less think of it as magic and we just think of it as another point at which we are pushing this technology that we can then use to push our own technology or our own creative practice. I imagine there's gonna be one day where I can type in a prompt and I can say, Nicolas Cage stars in Wes Anderson, Indiana Jones. And then it'll pump out a movie that I can watch that's gonna be the best. And that's what I'm looking forward to. I think it's gonna be great.
Back on the Icelandic trip, what were the biggest takeaways as an artist and as an educator?
I think that going to Iceland, it's one of those places where it's visually so stunning no matter where you go. Everywhere you point your camera, it's like a screensaver, right? You drive past a waterfall every 30 miles. It's one of those places where it's so much visual beauty that the difficult part isn't in seeking out and finding something pretty to take a picture of. It's narrowing down what it is you're gonna take a picture of. And for me, the most impactful moments actually came from really small things. Like in Reykjavik, they don't prosecute people for spray painting on walls. So the whole city is covered in spray paint, right? And it's kind of neat. At first it's a little scary because I have that American ideal where if you see a bunch of graffiti, then it probably means you're in a rough neighborhood. But in Reykjavik, everything is covered in graffiti. So it's kind of neat that you can just see that all the time. Or in Reykjavik, people feed stray cats. So all around the city, there are just cats hanging out and walking around. And it's just stuff that was unexpected that I discovered. I think those are the things that I take away as sort of that, it was because it was a surprise, but also it was so endearing of the quality of that place. The landscape was beautiful. The waterfalls are beautiful. The glaciers are amazing. Icebergs floating, all of that stuff is big. Puffins flying. All that stuff is amazing, but it's almost like you expect it. So of course, those expectations are met, but those unexpected things are the things that I take away, I think, the most.
If you could choose a destination for a future photography trip through UW-Stout, where would you pick?
I got a couple ideas. Antarctica is a big one, and that goes back to I just want to go to a place that hasn't really been affected by humans, and I want to see if that's Antarctica. I've never been there before and I would like to go. Cuba would be another big one, only because I think that you're not technically, as an American, allowed to go throughout most of my lifetime because we had an embargo, but I think that we can technically go now, and that would be a lot of fun. Vietnam would be another big one. My dad fought in Vietnam during the Vietnam War, and I would like to go there as a photographer and maybe try to go to some of those places that my dad went. Norway, where my grandfather, the painter, is from. I would like to go see where he was born. I think that'd be pretty cool. and those 4 things. I could keep naming them. I could keep going. It'd be cool to do a domestic trip, like maybe to go to the Rocky Mountains would be pretty cool. I'd like to go back to Alaska again. I've been there a couple of times. It'd be fun to take students. Yeah, I'll stop there. I could keep naming. Yeah, I want to go to a lot of places.
There's so much beauty in the world.
There really is. There really is.
Yeah. All right, well, that's all we got for you.
Cool. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
It's been a good time. I appreciate you
Learned
guys.
a lot just from that.
Yeah, there you go.